Life has a way of catching you off guard when you least expect it. Sometimes, the smallest choices, a late-night walk upstairs, a knock on a closed door, become the turning points of everything that follows. That's how it was the night I caught my son doing something that at first shocked me, then unraveled years of silence, and in the end, stitched us back together stronger than I could have ever imagined. It was a chilly evening in Denver, Colorado, the kind where the house feels extra quiet once dinner is cleaned up and the day finally winds down. I stood in the kitchen, wiping down the counters, listening to the faint hum of the dishwasher. A glance at the clock made me sigh. 11:47 p.m. Too late. Far too late for Ethan, my 15-year-old son, to still be awake. He had a bad habit of stretching his nights long past what I thought was good for him. Like most teenage boys, he insisted he could function fine on just a few hours of sleep, but I knew better. He'd drag himself to school bleary-eyed, insisting he wasn't tired while yawning through his cornflakes. I picked up the towel, hung it on the oven handle, and shook my head with a small smile. "Probably gaming again," I muttered, starting up the stairs. The house creaked beneath my feet, the kind of familiar sound that made me remember all the nights I had carried Ethan upstairs after he fell asleep on the couch, all the times my late husband Daniel had whispered, "He's getting so big, Meg." I paused at the top step, blinking back that memory. 3 years had passed since the accident. 3 years of holding everything together, of being both parents at once, of pretending like the ache in my chest was manageable. But grief is a tricky thing. It never leaves. It just learns to sit quietly in the corner of your life until something shakes it awake again. That night, grief stirred. The glow from under Ethan's door was faint, blue. I expected to hear the frantic clicking of a controller, maybe muffled laughter from an online friend. Instead, I heard something softer. A voice. Familiar. Too familiar. My heart clenched. I tapped lightly on the door. "Ethan?" "It's late." No answer. I waited a moment, then slowly turned the knob. The door creaked open, and what I saw made my breath catch in my throat. Ethan sat cross-legged on his bed, laptop perched on his knees. His headphones were hanging loose around his neck, and his face was streaked with tears. On the screen was a video. Not just any video. A video of Daniel. My husband. His father. The voice that had been tucked away in my memory was suddenly alive in the room, filling the silence with warmth and familiarity. Daniel was speaking in that calm, confident tone he always had when he gave his motivational talks. He had recorded dozens of them back when he dreamed of inspiring people online. I hadn't heard that voice in years. "Ethan," I whispered, stepping inside. Startled, he fumbled to close the laptop, wiping at his face. "Mom, this isn't." I gently placed my hand over his. "It's okay. Show me." He froze, then slowly let the screen turn back toward me. Daniel's face filled the frame, smiling, alive in a way that felt both beautiful and unbearable. "I found his channel," Ethan said, his voice breaking. "I didn't know it was still there. I've been watching them every night." Tears blurred my vision. My sweet boy, hiding his grief in the shadows of midnight, clinging to his father the only way he knew how. All this time, I thought his silence meant he was moving on. Instead, he was drowning quietly alone. I sat beside him, pulling him into my arms. He resisted for a second, because 15-year-old boys think they're too old for hugs, but then collapsed against me, sobbing into my shoulder. "Mom," he whispered, "I miss him so much. And you never talk about him anymore. It feels like you don't miss him at all." The words pierced me, because he was right. In my desperate attempt to protect him from pain, I had stopped speaking Daniel's name, stopped sharing the memories, stopped letting myself grieve openly. I thought silence was safer, that if we locked it all away, maybe it wouldn't hurt as much. But silence isn't healing. It's just hiding. That night, I realized we couldn't keep living like this. The next morning, while Ethan was at school, I climbed into the attic. Dusty boxes waited like unopened letters from the past. I pulled down photo albums, Daniel's old journals, even the leather jacket he had loved so much. When Ethan came home, his eyes widened at the sight spread across the living room. "Mom, what is all this?" I smiled through tears. your dad. And it's time we remember him together. We spent hours going through those boxes. We laughed at his terrible dance moves in old videos, cried at the wedding footage, and listened to his voice notes where he dreamed big dreams for our family. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel heavy with absence. It felt alive with memory. That night, before bed, Ethan whispered, "Thanks, Mom, for not pretending anymore." In the weeks that followed, something extraordinary happened. We began a ritual called Friday Night Dad Talks. Every Friday, we'd pick one of Daniel's videos to watch together. Then we'd talk about what he said, about how it made us feel, about the memories it stirred. At first, it was just the two of us. But soon Ethan had an idea. "Mom," he said one night, eyes glowing, "what if we re-upload Dad's videos? People need to hear them." So we did. We launched a channel called The Daniel Bennett Legacy. We started small, posting one video a week. To our surprise, people began to watch. Comments poured in. Strangers wrote things like, "Your husband's words saved me tonight, and this message gave me hope." I watched Ethan transform. He wasn't just grieving anymore. He was honoring, carrying, living with purpose. Months later, one evening, Ethan shyly handed me his phone. "Mom, look." It was a video of him, sitting at his desk, speaking to the camera, just like his father once did. He was nervous, fumbling at first, but then his words grew steady. He talked about grief, about losing his dad, about finding strength in remembering instead of forgetting. And thousands of people had already watched. I stared at him, tears streaming down my face. "Ethan, you're becoming just like him." He shook his head, smiling softly. "No, Mom. I'm becoming me. But I'm taking him with me." That night, I understood the truth. What shocked me wasn't Ethan watching those videos. What shocked me was how strong he had become without me even realizing it. What happened next didn't just change him. It changed us. Forever. 2 years have passed since that night. Ethan is now 17, preparing for college. His channel has grown into something far bigger than either of us expected. Every Friday, without fail, we still sit down together for dad talks. And every time I am reminded of this, sometimes the most shocking moments aren't the ones that break you. They're the ones that finally set you free. I walked in that night thinking I had to scold my son. Instead, he reminded me how to live. And for that, I'll never stop being grateful.